Mark Rogers TV talking some Ohio State football each and every Wednesday night. We call it the Buckeyes Breakdown, and we're happy to be joined this week by Tony Gerdeman from the Ozone.net. Tony, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing, Mark?
Doing just fine. So first time on Mark Rogers TV, definitely a welcome to you. You come highly, highly recommended. And so is a big Buckeyes. So I may need to, hold judgment. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, exactly. Make your own judgments.
Very good. I'm guessing that things are going to work out just fine. We'll have a pretty good discussion here. So being a big Buckeyes fan for a long time, covering the team up close and personal, just two things I would love to hear. Number one, favorite Ohio State football player of all time.
And I was at Ohio State the same time as Orlando Pace. So he's the most dominating college football player I've ever seen. And, he's the best I've ever seen. So I think he's probably my favorite guy that, you get to watch up close. You get to see what he can do. You watch him run 40 yards down the field, leading a path for a running back. And, interesting story. We had classes together. And when his junior year, he didn't show up for finals, I knew he was going pro.
Yeah, that's pretty much the giveaway. And we know what the deal is nowadays, and even to a certain extent back then, but without the social media and so forth. That was usually the first tip-off right there. And all college football fans, all football fans know who the quarterback is. You usually know even the third or fourth best wide receiver. But to know an offensive lineman 20 or 25 years later, let's see, his last year at Ohio State, 1996. So 21 years later, that's a testament to him. The voting for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not always what I would consider to be fair or accurate toward that position, seeing that there are 5 offensive linemen always on the field versus 1 quarterback. So it would seem to me to be fair to have 5 times as many offensive linemen in the Hall of Fame, since that's the ratio on the field. So the level of greatness would indicate that would be the case, but we know that's not the case. But for him to be a first ballot as an offensive lineman, that doesn't happen very often, and he was certainly deserving of it. So favorite player, the pancake guy, Orlando Pace. Favorite game, I know, again, I'm probably asking the impossible when it comes to all the great plays and games in the history of Ohio State football, or at least since you've been watching, but I'm going to try to nail you down on that one.
I think the one that stands out most for me is the Wisconsin Big Ten Championship game in 2014, because it was so out of the blue. It was, you weren't expecting it. And then, while you're sitting there watching it, this is different, this is special. And then seeing everybody on the field after the game, where, everybody's got their emotions going. Coaches are hugging players. Earl Bruce was down there. He had tears in his eyes, watching Devin Smith and Zach Smith, sharing a hug. And it's just, there's a ton of emotion there. So that one's always going to stand out just for the unbelievability factor and the domination. I mean, it might be the best performance we've ever seen from them.
Yeah, I could have taken about 25 guesses, Tony. I don't think I would have come up with that game for as big as it was. And it's easy to now think, oh, yeah, that was a great team. They moved on most of the team to the NFL in the first round. It seemed as though that was the case. It's easy to say that now, but they were a 4-point underdog with the third-string quarterback going into that game. Most people, I would think, would mention the Miami game or would mention the championship run from 2 years ago, whether it be the Alabama game or the Oregon game. But 59-0 against Wisconsin. And if they win that game by a touchdown, they probably don't get the nod over TCU or Baylor, just considering the reputation of the Big Ten at that point, and the bad loss early to Virginia Tech, a 7-6 team hanging on their record at that point.